Welcome back to another episode of Dungeon Hammer, brought to you by One Mind Syndicate. I am your host, Gershwin, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
That's our creature.
And the Sound Alchemist.
And today we're going to be talking about... What are we talking about, guys?
The best campaign for beginning D&D players.
Yes, that's what it was.
That's what it is.
If you are prepping a campaign for beginners, I would say that the best type is exploration, because that's really what a group of beginners is going to be doing anyways. They're exploring the game, and at the same time you could give them some type of like exploration in the sense of like a scavenger hunt or just them doing some type of mission that has them witnessing the world that you created. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think?
I feel like that might be a little too open-ended. That's like saying, you don't know what you're doing, let me just throw you in this world.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. You should you might have to be a little more railroady.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that for beginning players, you should probably create a one-shot that has the possibility of continuation.
Oh, okay.
So that if they're kind of not feeling it or whatever, the story is concluded.
Mm-hmm.
But if everybody enjoyed themselves, you can just continue up next time.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying then more structured to a beginning session. Looking back at it now, my very first session was definitely not railroady at all. We seriously did just go out into the woods.
Yeah.
And looking back at it, I didn't enjoy it. So, yeah, I see what you guys mean
you
now.
pretty much died on your first encounter.
Yeah, a wolf chewed me up.
Mm-hmm. But I think that comes with the same mindset of like, oh, we were playing 40K. Like, oh, it's just a wolf. I could take it on.
Oh, yep.
Because we were coming from a background of wargaming, so obviously it's different than somebody who literally has no idea.
And kind of if you have like a video game mindset, a wolf is usually like a low level thing that you should be able to kill.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So now, if you guys do want to make it the campaign railroady, what happens when the actual party doesn't allow you to make it railroady? Because I think that also is what happened in my first session ever. The DM created an entire city, and
we didn't.
We specifically were like, he gave us like 5 different shops we can go to, or 5 different things, and we were like, no, we're just gonna go explore out into the wilderness. So how do you control a first or a new party?
You got to give them a hook right away.
Yeah.
So this last weekend, my older brother came into town, and he's learning D&D for the first time. And I went over and I ran a small one-on-one session for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically started him out in front of somebody that gave him a job.
Okay.
And he can, like, you got it in...
What kind of a job?
Foot job.
Best one.
No, it was... And another thing to kind of consider when you're doing this is, for new players, they're not going to expect deep, complex, like out-of-the-box thinking stories. So you can kind of lean on the tropes, lean on the things that people kind of expect in a fantasy world, because they're going to grasp onto that and say, oh, I know this. Mm-hmm. I can relate to this. I can play around with this idea.
Oh, his name's Gandalf, too.
Sure. But like, I started him in a tavern, and there was a dude in the corner that looked like he was distressed, and he's like, "Oh, 50 gold if you find my lost kid."
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see that. I think if I was a DM and I was building a session, I would actually try to stay away from the tropes. But now that you mention how you can use those, they even do the job for you of like. Yeah, you know what a troll is because you've seen The Hobbit.
Yeah.
And if you're playing the game, or if you're playing a session that's just basically a rip-off of The Hobbit, then the party is it teaches the party quicker, I guess. Mm-hmm. So that's actually good advice.
And you probably shouldn't just rehash a story from pop culture. Just kind of use they start in a tavern and stuff like that, just to kind of give them a familiar place to kind of explore, so they're not just completely dropped into the deep end and they're like, what do I do? Like, what do I...
Yeah.
It's also not a good idea to overload them with, like, backstory and lore.
Yeah.
Because they already have, like, their own stats to keep in mind, their own abilities, traits. What does an Aasimar do that a Tiefling can't, and all this stuff. So if you just plop them into a world and you say, okay, there's a war going on. You have this person to the north, this person to the south, this person over here, this,
It's going to be too much. Overwhelming.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot to think about, and they're going to be like, oh, well, we should go up to the north to help this person. And by the time you're there, you forget about the other people, and it's just too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just drop them in, tell them what town they're in, and that's pretty much it. Give them a job, and if they have questions,
then
you can let them ask you questions about what they want to know rather than just overloading them with information.
Right.
As far as encounters, what type of encounters would you prepare for a new party, other than your basic? Well, I mean, I think one of them is an essential one is obviously a combat encounter.
Mm.
But other than that, what other things would you introduce to a new party to kind of get them used to the game?
What I did and what I think would be helpful is to kind of slowly escalate the complexity of the game for them. So what I did was I first started out in town, just talking to people, make some ability checks, stealth, persuasion, deception, so they can learn that system. And just kind of build it, make a few so they get used to what that's like. And then later on, you can throw a combat at them. Pretty, like a simple-ish combat that they're going to win. But so they can learn attack rolls and DCs and spells and all that stuff. So you're not like starting them in a combat right away, because that might be too gamey or too many rules to remember right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also a lot of like apps and websites that help with your character stats and all that. And for me, to be honest, I still don't know how to properly level a character up without using the app.
Mm-hmm.
The whole spell casting thing, spell levels versus your levels, that's still very like confusing. And that's just focusing on one type of like subclass or class. Now, if you go to a completely different one, they may not have magic, or they might have a different system, preparing spells and all of that. So it's very daunting. And apps or other useful tools like that can really help the game progress smoother, where you're not thinking about, okay, so what do I have now? The app automatically does it for you.
Yeah, that is a good resource. Also, I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with a player that doesn't own the books, so has never purchased. Yeah. How do you guys get around that? Because obviously, they don't do any background research because they can't. They don't have the book. So how do you guys go around?
If they don't have the book, it's more of like the DM should take charge and be like, okay, so what do you want? What do you want to do? And they kind of like
you're
fill in
gonna
the blanks.
have to do this with a group of new players. Is again session 0. Like you should create characters together at the table, so that everybody knows, and the DM can go one-on-one, like, while the other people are picking class and race and all that. Okay, you want to play a rogue? This is what a rogue does at level 1. This is all the stuff that you need to know. And if they don't have the book, they can write this stuff down, or if you have the app, you can point to the places in the app where it has what they need to know written down or whatever. You're going to have to handhold these new players.
Right. Also, ask your players, like, why do you want to play D&D? That way you know what every person likes and what to include in your campaign.
Okay.
So, like, I know when I first started playing D&D, I was instantly hooked to the races.
Yeah.
For any game, really, for me specifically, I don't like picking humans. It's like, you're already a human, why be a human?
Yeah, don't
so
be
then,
lame.
Yeah. Don't be the variant human that gets all the buffs in the beginning.
Humans for life.
So it's like, okay, what would be the most fantastical thing that would be really cool to play? And that's where I kind of branched out. What about you guys? What drew you into D&D?
Just the fantasy world.
The setting?
Yeah, just being able to play like an open-ended fantasy setting, like Skyrim with no rules. That's what I always wanted as a kid, and that's pretty much what D&D is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I was drawn to like this. I was curious to see what type of story they were gonna build. So like the story aspect of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess that kind of ties into another thing that you should absolutely do if you're playing with new players, is make each character, make them feel awesome in a certain time. Like, give them the spotlight, give them the killing blow, give them the finishing the puzzle and make it feel awesome. Make their character like feel like badasses, even if it's just like killing a wolf or whatever.
Yeah.
Make them feel like they're actual heroes or just like super cool. So they're gonna be like, oh wow, this is actually pretty fun. Like my character did something really cool. I want to keep playing because that's the goal, is to get these new players to keep playing and
Right.
Yep.
like D&D.
Yeah, that's something that we even did in 40K, right? Like the rule is, if you're introducing a new person to 40K, you always let them win.
Yeah, because it sucks losing your first time.
Yeah.
Because I know playing Magic, I think it was your first time. You only drew mana, or you never drew mana, and so
Something
you,
like
you
that,
didn't
yeah.
you didn't really get to experience the game.
Yeah. And as the DM, for new players, you have that power to kind of twist it.
Wait a minute.
Huh?
I don't think you guys let me win. I'm just saying.
In 40K?
Yeah, this is some bullshit.
Well, like if you like the person.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah. If you
Yeah.
don't want the person to continue to play with you, then
Just
just
stomp
you
it.
know.
I didn't take the hint, I guess.
Yeah.
And now he's here. We
Three,
can't get rid
yeah,
of him.
3 armies deep.
4.
4. Now, we've been talking completely about the player side. What
Yeah.
if you're a brand new DM? Like,
Oh yeah.
that seems like a very scary role. One that I thought I would never want to be a DM.
Same. I was like, man, why would I want to be a DM when I can play a character that's going to progress and become
Yeah.
this awesome badass? And now I love DMing way more.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. It's kind of the same for me.
Yeah, I was the opposite of you guys. I wanted to be a DM. I didn't really care to be a player. And I think what I'm interested to know what made you guys take that first step.
Because we were doing a team campaign
'Cause
where
I
everybody was
forced you guys
taking
to.
turns.
What about you?
I think as I played as a player and like consumed D&D media and fantasy media, I had got ideas for like stories. And then I was like, oh, maybe I might be able to make this into a story that people would want to play. And then it just grew and grew and grew until I was like, all right, I'm ready to take the plunge. I think I know the rules well enough that I can DM. And then I tried it out and I was like, oh, this is actually really cool.
Do you think that? Well, I think that you would benefit from being a player first and then a DM.
Right.
Definitely.
But
yeah.
do you think that you can just be a DM without ever being a player?
It's difficult because you're literally being thrown in kind of blind, really.
You really have to do your research.
Yeah.
Or have a player at the table to help you out with rules. Like have an experienced person there that maybe has DM before. Most definitely has DM before. So that as you're playing, you can kind of be like, "Am I doing this right, or should I be doing something different?" And kind of like
Essentially,
lean on them for guidance.
You have like a backseat DM. They're the real DM, and you're just like,
or just like you. If you're going to DM as the first time, you definitely do need more knowledge. You have to do more research. And really, I've never read the Dungeon Master's Guide front to back or like really at all.
Yeah.
If you want to become a new DM and you're interested in D&D and want to learn the rules, same with 40K really is what I did, is I just watched people play the game. Like I watched a bunch of videos online and I kind of
who did you watch? One Mind Syndicate, perhaps?
No, you don't have any battle reports, so...
We have a couple.
Yeah, they're there.
Okay.
There's a playlist.
But yeah, I watched those. I kind of, when I didn't know a rule or I wanted to know a rule, I kind of paid attention. You gotta, it's less, I don't know, it's entertaining for me, but when you're watching people play D&D, you gotta like go, what did they do in this situation? Okay, I'm gonna remember that so that I can.
Right, because I feel like D&D, you don't really focus too much on the rules. It's mostly role playing that you see. So it's kind of hard to like learn through.
You gotta watch.
Acting.
You gotta watch the games in a different mindset, like with the point of absorbing the rules rather than like taking in the story.
Right.
That's how I learned how to do that, because I didn't feel like reading a book, because I don't retain information very well when I'm just reading it.
Yeah.
But if I see people doing it and I'm entertained as well, then it kind of sticks a little better for me.
Oh, okay.
Now, with all of this being put together, what is the best campaign for a starter player? Is it just, like you were saying, throw them into a railroad and just have one combat be like that tutorial, and then from there have the person kind of lead, or have the party lead the campaign?
I think based on what you guys have been telling me, and I think you guys have better advice than I did to begin with. I understand that what you want to do is you want to throw in the hook early on, almost to the point where like how you did
Pretty
with
much
your
immediately.
brother.
Yeah, that's your thesis is like the first or second thing that happens.
You have to generate some type of goal that they are trying to achieve, and then just like teach them throughout the way how to actually play the game with your encounters. So like what you were saying with the checks and all that kind of stuff.
At what point should you stop holding their hand through the session? Is session 1 completely okay? You're new. I get this. Let me.
I don't think it's you can kind of. I don't think you can measure that in a session, like session 3. I think you have to, once you get to a point where you can tell that all your players are kind of getting it, and they get their rules. They don't really ask questions all that much about how to do things. Then you can stop holding their hand. I don't think it's because it's going to be different for every group. Depending on, and if you're a new player, do your research. Like read the book, read the player's handbook, know what you can do, because then you're lessening the burden of the DM and you're lessening the downtime at the table with all these other new players. When you're like, oh, hold on, let me see what this does again, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and that's 100% true, because when I was researching like actually what D&D was, I saw a few different places that said you don't need anything, just bring yourself and get some dice.
Yeah,
that's not true at all.
Well, it is true, but it's not as responsible. Like,
because if you have like spells and stuff, how are you gonna know what your spell does? What, like, at what level does it get powerful and all this stuff?
I guess it depends on the DM too, because we had a DM that would give us cards and everything, and actually played with people that I don't think had the book, and he did a really good job. And until I didn't even pick up the fact that they didn't have a book until like later on, and I think he probably held that that group's hand for a while then.
Yeah.
Even like now, I think.
Yeah. But, like a year later, and we're still kind of being pushed. Well, I wouldn't say pushed around, but kind of led.
But then it goes back to what Docile Creature was saying, where it's like every group is different, or not even group, but every player might be different.
Yeah,
that is true. Because like I'm noticing you specifically.
Yeah.
You used to come in with your like player's handbook, monster manual, 20 dice, and like 7 characters just in case.
Yep.
Now you just bring your D&D pants.
Yeah, just my pants.
And your doodle book.
Yep, and my and I think I had more fun that way, which is kind of funny.
It's less to keep track of.
Right. But at the same time, it's like, since you had the monster manual in there, you kind of knew at what point the DM was taking like extra steps and whatnot.
Yeah, this might be bad, and you guys shouldn't do it, but we'll see what you guys say. But in the beginning, when I first started playing D&D, I really wanted to do my homework and research and everything, but then I found that was kind of...
It ruins the experience.
Yeah, and then so what I started doing towards the end is just like showing up. But do you guys think that you should do that?
Yeah, there is a certain point where you can over-research D&D to the point where it's like, okay, the DM is describing this monster like exactly how like a warg is. Now I know what a warg is. I know how to approach it, what to do to take it down, and that takes away the surprise and the impact of like fighting something and then out of nowhere you realize, oh, that's like a thunder troll or something like that.
I mean, that's gonna happen over time regardless. Like the more D&D you play, the more monsters that you encounter. There's only so many monsters in the monster manual, so eventually that is gonna happen. But to what you were saying is I've been in the exact same boat. There's been times where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take really good notes. I'm gonna know everything, and I'm just like, man, that's not fun to me. Yeah. Taking notes, that's like I don't want to be in school taking notes the whole time. I want to be part of the story. And if I'm taking this time to take notes and then something else is said and I got to catch up and write those notes down, it's just really not fun to me.
Yep, I did that for like the first 3 sessions. I shouldn't have.
And maybe it's just the way that we take notes. Maybe there's a better way to like bullet points.
Yeah.
But because like as a DM, I really appreciate it when my players take notes and they know things
Yeah.
about the world or that I've told them. But as a player, I'm just like, I don't want to take all these notes. So I still do take notes. Like if this is important to my character,
Yeah.
and my character would want to remember this, then I would write it down.
Mm.
And like brief like descriptions like name, race, why is this guy important or this place important or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to have write out a whole paragraph about this dude because then I'm going to miss 5 minutes of the game, and that's just not cool.
Yeah, speaking about like notes and everything, how important do you think it is to throw in some hooks into the first session or the first couple sessions that will later on like expand the story that you're trying to tell?
That keeps your players wanting more, and I think it's good for longer sessions. But if you are playing a one shot and you do kind of like, let's say your one shot takes place in like the Caribbean, and you mention that like some evil scientist has been experimenting in the north, like you're probably not gonna get to the north if it's just supposed to focus in on whatever's happening in that Caribbean area.
Yeah.
But say they do like it, then now you can expand and they make their way up to the north with their adventures and whatnot.
Yeah, I think the opening arc of a one shot, if you're going to do that, or a short arc to kind of introduce these players, I kind of see it as like think of like the Star Wars, the original Star Wars movie. It's an open and shut story front to back, but then there's more that happens in the next two movies. So there's room to expand and room to continue the story, maybe seed that a little bit in the first little arc, but make it like they succeeded, they completed this arc, but it could continue on. So that way, if you want to continue, and these players like D&D and they want to keep playing, you can just like later on, oh, that's what the first arc was all about. Like that still ties into this, and it makes them feel part of the story a little more and affected by what the plot is from the beginning.
Gotcha.
Now, how do you feel about, instead of creating a new campaign or session for new players, you go off of a module that's already been laid out? This is the character you're playing, this is the character you're playing, and let's go by the book.
I actually bought the latest starter box at Target. It's freaking amazing. Like I want to play that game.
As a player,
or even running it as a DM, it also, there is so much value in those boxes because the books teach you or like give you ways of generating encounters that you never thought of. They're really, really good.
I guess I've never thought about it because I've never run a module personally. But if you want to jump in as a DM, that's probably a really good place to start. Yeah. Because it really takes a lot of the burden off on you. You just read through the story and see what you got to do. I've never read through them, but from what you said, it's like they kind of makes it easier. Like, absolutely. If you're brand new and you just want to start as a DM because nobody else wants to, because that's usually how it goes, then, yeah, try out a module. There's a ton of them out there, and there's a lot of cool ones.
Yeah. I really want to do the Curse of Strahd. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what my brother that I ran through, his group is starting with that.
Oh.
The interesting part about those books is that it seems like, because I've purchased two, and they have like some type of mystery that hooks you or hooks the party in. So think about that when you're generating your sessions for a party, a beginning party. Have mystery, whether it's the fantasy setting or not, but mystery really like keeps people wondering. What you want to do is you want to have the players go home that night and think about it. Like what's going on, because which is I've had that situation happen to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, we also created a podcast specifically on mystery. So if you guys want to check that out, check out our archive, or I'll link it down in the description below or something.
Now, what do you think is the hardest thing for you guys to actually get into D&D? Like, what was the
biggest hurdle to get over?
Yeah, like, okay, I've gotten over the hardest part. Everything's easy from here.
Wow. It's been so long.
Yeah, how long have you been playing? Let's start there. Docile creature.
I started 2010. Well, no. I really don't know. Anywhere between 2010 and 2012 in that area. And we started with 4th edition. Started with 4th edition. Played that for a little bit. Then we went to 3.5. And then there was like a big gap where I never played. And then
Was that during the
edition.
Coney 2012 era?
Yeah.
Because you didn't
The
have
Dark
any
Ages.
friends.
Yeah, nobody wanted to play D&D. And that's kind of been my life until 2 years ago. And now everybody wants to play D&D,
It's
which
really
is
popular
awesome.
now, right?
Yeah, Stranger
People that I
Things.
actually know, like, want to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny because like I remember I told myself D&D's for nerds. I'm never gonna play that.
Oh, let me go play Warhammer, though.
Yeah, right.
Freaking
I
nerd.
felt that way about Magic. I thought
Uh-huh.
Magic was really lame, and then we played a game, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is fun!"
Yeah, that's the irony of people who are into nerdy hobbies and scoff at other nerdy hobbies, as if there's like a hierarchy of
Right.
nerd that like, oh, I can't cross that line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like for a time it was like almost 5 days a week I was playing D&D. It was crazy.
Yeah, I've been there.
But so what
Yeah.
was it that?
Oh, yeah.
What was
the
the
hurdle.
spark? The hurdle. You don't have.
I mean, it has to be just learning, having a steady grasp of the rules where that I don't have to reference to the book.
Mm-hmm.
And like I changed editions twice, so forgetting old rules and
Going with the new.
yeah. But luckily 5th edition is pretty streamlined and easy to kind of grasp.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say that for a new player, that's probably what would be the biggest hurdle, is kind of just because we get playing make believe. That's easy enough. We get what we want our character to be. It's kind of putting the skeleton of the rules inside of that character that is kind of hard to
Make it-
realize.
yeah.
It's also intimidating because that was like my thing. I bought all these books thinking that like, oh, I really need to sit there on the toilet and just read from front of the cover to the back of the cover. And then it turns out that no, you don't. You don't need that.
Right.
Nope.
And once I realized that, then that's when I started having fun.
It doesn't hurt, but like I said, I've never done it. I've never read.
Mm-hmm.
I barely read any of the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when I have a question about a certain rule, I'll flip to that page. But other than that, there's probably some really good stuff in there that I'm missing out on. Like I'm sure there is, because it's a whole book full of stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that's made for Dungeon Masters. I really should read through it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just why so much reading.
Yeah. My biggest hurdle, and I think I still have it now, is that I love creating characters,
Mm-hmm.
but then like the next day I get inspired by something else, and it's like, oh, now I want to play this thing.
I've been there, yeah.
Same.
Yeah, I went through 3 reiterations of like a character before I even started playing D&D. Like,
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing. I'm like, oh, this player's cool. I'm gonna be a ranger. It's like, oh, I heard rangers aren't that good. Well, let me be a fighter. It's the next best thing. Hey, I want to do magic. Let's go wizard. And I just kept bouncing back and forth until I just picked one.
Yeah.
And even nowadays, it's like, all right, I've played my character for 4 sessions. Let me see what this other style is like. It's
The advice that I like to give people is never make backup characters, because you fall in love with them and you want to play them, and it makes you scoff at your character you're
Correct.
playing now
Yeah.
and kind of like push them to the side. Don't care if they die. It's happened to me a bunch of times, and I mean, I still create backup characters, but you shouldn't. You really shouldn't, because you'll fall in love, and then you got to wait months or years in order to play this character, and you'll make so many other ones, and it's a vicious cycle.
It is.
Unless you like going through characters, but it kind of destabilizes the game.
Yeah. Because really the narrative, most of the time I feel, is kind of focused on what the core is. And if you keep changing characters, it's going to slow down. You got to
Reintroduce, reconnect to the party.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And not just that, but if you know you have like another character in the back, then you'll find ways to like, oh, maybe I can kill myself doing this. And it's like,
I've
now
done
you're
that.
not even progressing in the story. You're just finding ways of committing,
Or you just you're just less cautious. Like, oh, if I
Right.
die, I have a really cool character that I really want to play. And then what happened to me is I did that exact thing. I tried to one-on-one the boss, and then later on the line, I was like, man, that character was really cool too.
Mhm.
I kind of wish I didn't just throw him away because
Exactly.
of the flashy new thing that I came up with. I really liked that character. There's a reason why I played him.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny because like I like the way one of my characters died, but it's like, damn, I really want to play that one again.
Yeah. And then it feels cheap if you just make
Bring
a
them
copy.
back. Yeah,
Or
if you
even
make
like a different
copy.
character that's pretty much the same thing. It's like, this is just that same
why
character.
why did you even do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like let's say one of your character has like a really cool weapon or like magic item or anything. It's like, oh, here, hold on to this in case something happens. That's like red flags all over the place.
Yeah, definitely.
And then your new character comes like, oh, that looks cool. Let me take that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just thinking about like what your character could have become, what you wanted him to be. It's like, oh man, that character was gonna be so cool, but I just threw him away.
Right. But at the same time, like most people never get to play level 20 characters.
Yeah.
So is that something we should tell beginning players?
Yeah.
Don't expect to play this character out from level 1 to level 20.
Yeah.
Realistically, you'll maybe get the first time, maybe get to 6, maybe get to 10. I've never gone past 10, so I've been playing for a long time.
Yeah. Also, when you make a character, do you create it as the campaign goes, or do you already have like a sheet that's my character's already done from level 1 to level 20? No, it's just like
I've done both.
mm,
I can see the merits of both. It just depends on how you want to play your character. Some characters you have this roadmap that you want to follow, but other times, like if it makes sense for the story to multi-class in a paladin, I never thought about doing that. It's not optimal, quote unquote, but it kind of makes sense. Man, why not? It makes sense for the story. It's cool. You get to get some new stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've done both. Oh, it's a lot of work to roadmap a character out from 1 to 20, and especially if you probably won't get that far.
right.
But
Doing extra work for
it's
no
fun.
reason.
It's fun to do that.
Yeah, but definitely take that. So I would, or what you were saying, if you are that type of person, you could have used that time that you're planning all your levels to just really understand what you are now, your current level, and knowing the rules and stuff like that.
How harsh should you be on a beginner when they're trying to role play? Because if they're
that's a
good question.
yeah, because it's gonna be super awkward. Like I know it was for me.
Okay, so if you're the DM and you're running for a bunch of new players, get goofy. Like do weird voices.
From like Disney,
Yeah.
like go grab him.
Yeah. Go get them. But like don't be shy, don't like hold back. Just go all out, because then the players are going to say, "Oh, if this is this normal for D&D? Like maybe I should be doing this. Maybe I'm I don't feel as awkward doing a voice for my character if the DM's doing like 3 different weird voices." Try to make them as comfortable as possible with the idea of role playing, because that's the whole game.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So you want to encourage an environment of openness, and like if somebody does a voice and it's silly and people laugh at the table, try to make sure that it's laughing with that person, not just like, oh, that's the worst Russian accent I've ever heard. Like there's no productivity to doing that.
Yep.
Just gonna be like, oh man, that's a cool voice, even if it's because like we're in a fantasy world. There's no Russians, there's no Germans, so if they do it wrong, it's like, okay, that's a dwarf voice. That's a dwarven accent, no matter what it comes out as.
And that goes back to just making your players feel awesome at the end of the session.
Yeah. Yep. Lift them up. Make them like even outside, like outside of in the game. Like if they do an accent, be like, that was cool. Like you should definitely keep doing that.
Inspiration for you. Right. Or if like nothing really happened of note, you can still make them feel good. Just make sure you got some like Jergens nearby.
Yeah.
For sure. Do it raw.
Oof. Hand sanitizer these days. You know what I'm saying?
You can't find that. Or maybe you have like the travel size, like, oh, you did good instead of inspiration. Here's some
Travel size
hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer, yeah. Or toilet paper.
Yeah, you get 3 sheets today.
Just soak your dice in them so that way they're always clean.
In what? Hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comment section what you guys would do for a new
players.
Group. Yeah. And thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're going to post some more cool content soon. And we appreciate all of our subscribers.
Spread the word. Tell your friends.
This is Gershwin.
The Sound Alchemist.
Docile Creature.
And we are out of here.
refuse to put my freedom first in any situation.